So Frank's not going to make it tonight. He has, you're stuck with me. And Jack, of course, Jack Unger. He's going to talk about WiMAX.
Hopefully we'll all talk about WiMAX together. That's my goal.
That's your goal?
Yeah.
Have everybody talking WiMAX?
Yep. Simultaneously.
Intelligently or just, oh, simultaneously, okay.
Do we have Wi-Fi tonight?
Yeah.
No.
That's right.
The SOCALWUG Wi-Fi AP is offline.
Tim's pointed out WiMAX uses a polling mechanism, so only one of us can talk at any moment, in any time slot. But if we were Wi-Fi, then we could all talk at the same time.
Well, not really.
And no one would be
We're going to talk about WiMAX sometime in the next hour.
No. Is that equivalent to, like, what is it, carrier or collision detect?
CDMA.
Yeah, collision avoidance, collision
Actually,
detection.
that would be the Wi-Fi side, collision avoidance. But WiMAX actually, the access point's going to say, okay, your turn, and then your turn, and then your turn. So the subscriber units won't collide with each other, which will save lost time slots and improve throughput.
Is that, we'll probably learn this more over this later, but is that just the ones that are associated with that AP?
Yes, it is.
So you can get collisions for like two APs in the same area?
You could if they were on the same frequency or nearby frequencies, yeah.
Well, in the last month, what has happened? Well, in January, WiMAX, first WiMAX products were certified. I have a picture of a couple of those. This is from Redline. This is a picture of their pre-WiMAX, which they said fit all of the 802.16, which is the WiMAX certification. It fit all of those requirements. So this, I believe, is the set that eventually was WiMAX certified. This is from
Here they said that they, like, forever ago when they were here, they said they met everything, but no one else was out there to test against at the time. So
there were two obstacles to say they did or didn't have WiMAX. The first was there was no such thing as WiMAX yet because the 802.16 wasn't written up, and approved by IEEE. And the second thing is there's a testing process you have to pass before you can say you're WiMAX compliant or certified or whatever. And that didn't happen because the first thing didn't happen. So since then, all of those things have lined up, and now they're able to, I guess, put a little logo on here somewhere that says WiMAX. Like your laptop might have the Centrino or Wi-Fi logo or whatever. That's kind of the same situation. So this is Redline. And one of their antennas. I think this was used in Europe. This is 3 gigahertz, and it's what they used. They were actually deploying in Europe, and in America it's not quite ready because the spectrum's not there.
Right.
So we don't have 3 gigahertz. We do have other frequencies, and I guess they're tuning for those. And this is Aperto, which is one of the other players, and this is their picture of their system. Another WiMAX box. And that's it. Yeah, that's it. I have a couple of these still. I just thought you could see those. Does anyone have any topics they want to bring up before we get to the presentation?
I read an article today that they in Massachusetts, this businessman, the wife was kidnapped, right? And they told the kid, the wife for ransom, and they sent a notice to the business owner for ransom for $150,000. Now, what's interesting about that is that they didn't ask for $1 million or $2 million. For $150,000 because they seem to know exactly how much the guy has, money he has in the bank, right? So he asked for $150,000, and so the business owner cooperated with the police, and the police they used all their techniques and They went to the ransom and stuff, but they finally caught the guy. But the point is that, you know, these guys, you know, they were watching the business owner.
So he was watching, you think he was watching over the wireless?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that
Checked his bank account or something?
anything is possible. I don't know. You know, but he seemed to know things about the business owner that, you know, that he should know.
Identity theft and privacy. That's something. That's why you want to encrypt your network, or at least your transactions, using your web browser.
You know, I mean, he didn't ask for $1 million or $500,000. He know exactly what to ask for. But, you know, if you know, the guy only has $150,000, he asked for $1 million. It's not going to do any good.
Right.
So that's fine.
But they caught him.
Yeah, I mean, after.
So it wouldn't have mattered anyway.
Well, but the point is that, you know.
I know.
They're lucky this time. You know, they might not have caught it. They just, you know. But if this guy was smarter than the average bear, you know, he would have got away.
I thought you might have said, like, they tracked him down through an open access point or something. Because that was how they caught somebody who was extorting a business owner by watching him. They actually had an idea who it was and then caught him by tailing him and watching him get onto an open access point and email one of his extortion letters through somebody else's Wi-Fi network. So they tracked it, watched it, and then they caught him. I don't know if that part of it was part of the case, or he might have like pled guilty to the extortion. So it was less. It was more about that than trespassing or any of those stuff. Anyway.
So who's Linksys?
Who is
Network?
Linksys?
No, I'm connected to one, but I can't.
You're connected to a network named Linksys?
That's an unusual name.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I'm not getting anything. So
You're not getting any IP address? Well, I don't know. There's a lot of networks that sprung up around here. There's a commercial building next door
Yeah.
that's got like whatever 4 or 5 in there. Yeah. There's like the Islands across, but I think the Islands has a capture page, and the one in here isn't working right. The one we usually bring.
I wanted to mention that the Kyocera mobile router has finally been released.
That's it?
Yeah, I got this a few weeks ago. It just came out this month, and the company that's selling them is out of stock until March or something like that. The Kyocera is going to release an update to the firmware, which the people that already bought it can still use it, or still install, upgrade the firmware. And there was some problem with the what is it, the S620 card not going in too well.
Oh,
The one
with the physical.
I think you can get it in, but you got to be careful.
Yeah.
And so there's a slot in the back for the card, but
Do you want to try it out tonight?
sure, if I can find somewhere to plug it in.
Right here?
I'll bring my computer up and set it up, and then we can have wireless
You
access.
can have wireless, because I had the MB8000, which is the gateway, but it got, I had somebody's was stolen out of their car and it became a replacement. So I haven't replaced it. That's the problem with these things.
Who's got the orange juice? Yeah, I really want to know.
There was a New York Times article about them today, and basically they showcased David Pogue in the New York Times. Was it? Might have been yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Talked about this, the KR1, which is the new cellular to Wi-Fi gateway.
It only works with the CDMA cards right now. They may have another one that they come out with later that will work with other things, but now they only, so it's basically Sprint, Verizon, or Alltel.
Oh, Kyocera does?
Huh?
Kyocera only works with that?
This particular router. They may have a router in the future.
I thought that it only worked with Verizon. And
No, it works with,
okay.
it includes a cable for cigarette lighter.
This is a Verizon card, so it
Yeah,
probably
that'll
won't.
work. I just have to know your phone number.
What is this sell for?
Pardon?
What's the cost?
The company I bought it from is selling it for $250. Supposedly it lists at $300, but I don't know if anybody else is selling it. The company I bought it from.
They have a rebate right now too.
Yeah, if you get the KPC 650, you can get $50 rebate if you buy both of them. You don't have to buy them at the same time. If you already own a KPC 650, that's fine.
Because Kyocera makes the KPC.
I haven't bought a card yet because I haven't decided
What
whether.
does the card run?
How much is the card? 150, I think.
Something like that.
And Verizon has a couple of cards. One's like $50, one's $100, and one's $150 with service.
But my understanding is the 650 is the one to get.
Yeah,
It's
it's
the best one.
it's supposed to be the best one, and also it's the only one that Verizon has with an external antenna jack. So you put your cell amplifier or your antenna on the roof.
Yeah.
Right here's how.
That's
Got
the,
like an old aftermarket one a year ago. What are the chances that might actually work?
Good. Most, I don't know about the Kyocera, but some of the products, there's 3 vendors that are like making the big splash. Top Global, Junction Box, and Kyocera, which is also D-Link. They're doing
Yeah,
it
it's
together.
right. In fact, it says on it, powered by D-Link.
Yeah. So, I know the Top Global one, their higher cost one, it's like $800, can work with a slew of cards and different technology. It doesn't have to be EVDO, the EVDO, CDMA, even the CDMA 2000 is slower form. Because when you plug it in, the software knows about all the different cards. It knows how to pre-configure them.
Well, because from what was on the list, he was trying to get it to work in the Linux. It sounds like
Oh, I
pretty
have
simple.
that.
What's actually in it. What's actually in the card? It's just like it's just a USB hook adapter. And
Yes, in the
and
card.
then in the card, it's just a USB host adapter and then an ECM modem.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
it
like,
goes
it's just
through
like the USB when you plug in your phone. Like
a little bit, but it's PCMCIA card.
yeah, but it's
But
the
the drivers-
it's exactly the same thing except you're plugging in USB host adapter
You're
and
plugging
then
in,
have the
yeah.
same thing as your phone on the
Right.
other end of the card.
So it uses the PCMCIA port to basically install another USB hub.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, on Windows, when you plug it in, it shows up and says that it's a USB, Lucent USB mini host adapter. Instead of saying KPC 650, in fact, which is weird. When you're trying to stop the service, you have to remember that because it won't show up.
One caution on this, it says you have to turn the power off when inserting or removing the card. So we did that.
What I was going to say about these things is they're running short on supply because they're such low runs. This is brand new, so you hardly find it anywhere. The junction box that has 1 or 2 is through one distributor, and if they run out, you can't get it anywhere else. And Top Global, they're in Irvine, so we can get those. I usually can get those pretty quickly.
This one came from Chicago. It has an extra USB port on it that was for testing, but somebody asked them if they could maybe enable that as a printer port, and they said they'll think about it, so maybe they will.
Make a print server out of it too.
Yeah, and
It's got an Ethernet port on it too, right?
yeah, it's got
a
4.
switch there.
It's got 4 Ethernet ports and 2 USB. One is for in case you have using an EVDO phone, but right now it only supports 4 different models.
Oh yeah.
I know it supports the XV6700 at this point. I forget what the other 3 for. It doesn't support the 6700, but people have asked for that.
Doesn't support mine. Supports that.
But we hope.
So this is the
because I'm thinking about
6700
getting one of
from
those myself.
Verizon.
The cool thing would be to just, if you had the cable, plug it in and see if it works. Because I know from experience, manufacturers will often say we don't support it because we haven't tested it.
But it may. Yeah, it's just this has a USB connection.
Yeah.
It's like a Windows. It's a what is it? Pocket PC.
I need to know your phone number.
It's on the card.
Is it? Oh, it's written on the
It's
card?
on the bottom of the card.
Okay, I'll have to
No,
cut
flip
the
it over.
power.
You'll
I have to cut the power.
No.
Oh. Oh.
had to use that number many times. The card comes with the phone number, and like to download the software, you have to have the phone number. That's their authentication scheme. So,
And then they just use VZW for the cash.
cool, and then you'll bring it up. So this the 6700. It's Pocket PC, but it has a slide-out keyboard, so you can do emails and texting and stuff. That's a pretty decent keyboard. It's kind of an annoying phone. How do you like it as a phone?
It's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
doesn't get in the way. Yeah. I get annoyed by there's a lot of pop-up messages. You know, it's like notification. Oh, you have email. You have 212 unread email messages, which is all but 2 are spam. And then it pops up and yeah, maybe I need to install a pop-up blocker for my little Today screen on my Pocket PC.
As a long-time Sidekick user, how do they compare?
The Sidekick's better at email. Way better, but the Sidekick sucks as a phone and it doesn't have Bluetooth. And this one's a little harder to dial. How hard the Sidekick was to dial phone numbers through the keypad. This one's like even harder because it's a touch screen. So you're using your contacts list. But that's the other thing. The Sidekick had a limit on the number of contacts you could store, and I think it was 2,000. So I have like a huge contact list, so I'd have to go through and be like, these are the people I want to call, versus these are the people that I just want to have their info in Outlook, right? But this one, all of them go on there. There's no like set limit, so it's got all of them. And of course now when I dial, it shows all the duplicates and things. So I'm starting to dial and stuff. It's got 10 Frank Keeney's in a row.
All right.
All with the same phone
Do you
number.
use voice dialing with that thing?
No, it doesn't have it. No. It's got a neat Bluetooth headset.
Mine didn't come with it either, but I got a program for like $10. And
That may be because it's Pocket PC. You could probably, there probably is.
and that one's not? Is that
It's
one?
Pocket PC, it's Windows Mobile 5.0, the new version of Windows Mobile. So there's probably a lot of apps from Fandango or
No,
some
that's what I did on
third
this
party.
one.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering
I
about
should
you.
try that.
Yeah.
No, I barely moved into it. I just got it like 3 weeks ago. So I haven't even tried it as a broadband. It's supposed to be a good broadband modem too. For the you could do Bluetooth or USB cable, and it will do the same thing as the EVDO card.
So it's an EVDO phone.
It's an EVDO phone. And surfing the web and getting emails are really fast. That's what's cool too. Oh, and then I was going to ask you about yours. When you have Wi-Fi on, does it turn the phone off?
No, you need to turn the phone off first, then do the Wi-Fi. Otherwise, it'll surf using the phone.
Because this one, it has the 3 different wireless. It's got EVDO, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi. And then when I turn on Wi-Fi, it turns the phone off and Wi-Fi on. So now I can't receive phone calls.
Well,
Have you heard anything about latest technology and Wi-Fi where it's supposed to be faster than one of those what is this, light cable? It's a fiber optic cable, but it's wireless.
Oh. Yeah, I saw something about that. It's a test run or somebody released some or some white paper or something on how it's possible.
No, they've done it. I mean, they've done it. It's using wireless, but it's faster. It's faster than fiber optic.
It's gigabit wireless is what they call
Yeah.
it.
But you in the business, I thought you would have more information than me.
I read about it, but it's one of those things like a press release doesn't make it so. So I was kind of like, well, some university somewhere created some special stuff, or it's a potential for maybe it's down the line. It might have escalate into the real world, that's when I look at it, when it becomes like WiMAX. For the last couple of years, people have been talking about WiMAX, but it hasn't ever really happened until 6 weeks ago. Not even 6 weeks ago. January 19th, they made the press release that said WiMAX is really here now.
Well, this technology is usable because there's certain situations where it's not feasible if you put it in a fiber optic line.
You're right. It is usable, but it's not available. Like, they've done a test and it worked. But who did the test? What did they use? Can we do it somewhere else?
You can go on the...
Can you buy it on, like, eBay?
It's on the internet right now. I mean, you can read the article on the internet.
I know. Yeah.
You can't buy it.
Probably done in a lab.
I don't care.
It's working.
It's working?
The default, I left it on the default SSID, which is
KR1.
KR1.
Oh, yeah, I just saw it.
So, thanks. So cool. This is the new KR1 from Kyocera, and now this is giving us wireless. And this is the 802.11g, is it?
Oh, no.
Access point?
Yeah.
So this is the wireless access point, 802.11g, Wi-Fi, and this is going up to the cell network on Verizon. And it goes through them.
So we're using the Verizon network.
We're using the Verizon network. I'm sharing my Verizon account against their TOS.
Yeah.
Actually, in the New York Times article, there was a good point about how in the cable industry, cable internet, when that first started, people were, they were charging people per computer because they were detecting MAC addresses and being like, no, you can buy a cable modem and it's $40 a month, but it's only for this one computer. If you have another computer, it's another, $10 extra. Just like they were doing with TVs and the set-top boxes. But people found workarounds, like by putting a router in and having it do the single MAC address, and then the router would share out, like 2 to 5 computers in the house. So the prediction is David Pogue, who wrote the article, predicted that Verizon will end up doing the same thing. Just make it like, look, this is how people want it. We can't stop it. So just let them do it.
But if a bunch of us log on to this, is it going to bog it down? I mean, how fast is it?
It's about a megabit. Do a speed test.
Everyone do it at the same
Well,
time.
that's the thing. When I get Wi-Fi on this, it's imperceptibly faster than the GPRS, which is really slow. So I don't know what.
I think that's processor on those.
Yeah, that's
on
what
the
I was
PDAs.
thinking. An iPad called 6315. Is it the processor?
Jack, you want to start?
Sure. Let's just swap the laptop over.
Okay. Did you bring a copy of your book?
No, I don't have one on me. I don't have any in stock.
I keep them under my pillow.
Yeah, but Mark knows how to do it.
Mark knows what?
He knows how to do it right. He said he keeps one under his pillow.
Oh, yeah, put him to sleep in.
In case I need to go to sleep.
Oh, on those rare occasions that you do sleep?
actually, it comforts me to sleep. That's what it is.
Just knowing it's there.
Yes.
I do that with this. I do that with my email. So, are you asleep?
Yeah, should wake it up here.
About ready. So, Jack Unger is the author of basically the wireless ISP's Bible to the industry. And he spoke here at SOCALWUG a few times on spectrum analyzers and his book, which is called Deploying License-Free Wireless Wide Area Networks by Jack Unger, and it's published by Cisco Press.
And I want to thank you, Mike, and Frank, for giving me the opportunity to once again present some
Enlighten
information.
us. Thanks.
Well, WiMAX is so new that we all know something about it. And none of us know all about it. So keeping that in mind, let's just kind of share information about it. And we'll all go home knowing more about it. Maybe you can tell from the title of the slide that I detected a slight amount of myth or mythology or hype, perhaps, surrounding WiMAX. So we want to try and cut through that as much as we can. Get this thing. We're going to figure out how to make it work. Once we can make it work, we can do good stuff with it. We can do the magic that wireless is, really. So I think these are a couple of the myths that we may have heard. Has anyone heard any of those?
Yeah.
A few of them? One or two?
Well, not 30 miles, like 15 to 20 miles.
Depends on the path. It could be 30 miles between mountaintops or 3 blocks, you know, if you have a bunch of buildings in the way.
Is that 30-mile number the timing? Is that a timing limitation?
No, it's not a timing limitation. It's the distance is going to be limited primarily by the number of obstructions and the density. But unlike Wi-Fi, which does have a timing limitation, WiMAX should not have that same problem. Because let's remember, Wi-Fi was created as an indoor technology to go 300 feet. And sure, we learned to put antennas on it and go miles and miles, but that doesn't mean it goes miles well. WiMAX, to me, is kind of taking the lessons learned with outdoor broadband wireless and trying to put them into a new standard. So yeah, we go 30 miles if we're on 2 mountains, nothing in between. I consider it to be near line of sight over distances that are much shorter than 30 miles. 3 to 5 miles if the obstructions aren't too serious. Note that the abbreviation used for non-line of sight up here. Oh, I thought this was, here we go. Is the same as the abbreviation used for near line of sight down here.
That's always confused me in marketing when they show that.
It's very convenient when you're in marketing because you can fudge this and say, oh, it's NLOS, and no one knows really what it's going to do or how it's going to work.
And he's near Las Vegas.
And then there's that, near Las Vegas.
Near Los
Las
Angeles.
Vegas overseas.
Oh, right.
NLOS.
Not Los Angeles.
But there, I think, is the answer to the common cold, and change seems to come all too fast these days, WiMAX or not.
So will WiMAX reduce your stress level?
Will WiMAX reduce your stress level?
Increase it.
I think initially it's going to increase it. Eventually it may reduce it. You may be asking yourself, how did I get here? I know I was, Mike called me up and said, Jack, would you like to present? So I have some idea, but not completely. I don't completely understand how I got here. But back around the turn of the last century, about 1900, there was a gentleman, Guglielmo Marconi, who said, there's the ocean. I bet I can get a wireless signal across the ocean. Nobody's ever done it, but I think I can do it. So I will go across the ocean to North America, to Newfoundland, and try and receive a wireless signal. I'm going to go to Cabot Tower on Lookout Point at St. John's, Newfoundland, by the way, I'm sorry. It's Newfoundland, not the way I used to slur it, Newfoundland. The land is the important thing. And see if I can receive a wireless signal. It might be a little hard to see here, but they took a kite which is up here, and attached an antenna to it. This must be the England end because this doesn't look like Cabot Tower here. But this is what they did. Apparently on both ends, they got the antenna up in the air.
How long is the antenna, do you know?
I'd like to know how long. This was done on the real low frequencies where the antenna really, really needs to be hundreds or thousands of feet long. But that looks like it might be 300 or 400 feet up there in the air. They didn't really understand antenna length, resonance, that every frequency needs an antenna that's the right length. They just put a piece of wire up there.
Long wire.
A long wire, yeah, what we call a long wire. And again, long is relative, just like NMOS. And he was attempting to listen for the letter S in Morse code. Did it? Well, they heard the letter S, thereby becoming the first person ever to demonstrate that wireless worked and you could go across the ocean with it. Okay, that was in 1901, so that was 105 years ago.
What was his name?
Guglielmo Marconi.
Is he on the website, google.com?
Yeah, Google.com. Yeah. See, once you have an entrepreneur, always knows where to go. That's good. But how did I get here? 48 years ago, my dad gave me a book called Electronics Made Simple, and I got involved with ham radio back in St. Louis, Missouri in 1958. I did all the way till today.
Those are all your different hands?
Yeah, these are my old QSL cards. Here in St. Louis, moved to Los Angeles at 15, moved to Northern California for 30 years, and now I'm back here again the last 5 years.
And that's the housing.
That's why I'm here, because I've been fortunate enough to learn from so many people along the way that I can come up here and pretend that I know enough to share the information. It's really simple.
I'll buy into that.
Okay, through 93 to 2006, I had the chance to work in the telecom industry and found Wireless Infonet, do one of the first 2 or 3 wireless ISPs in the world, start doing wireless workshops and write this book. And then in 2004, changed the name to AskWhy.com. Last year I had the chance to work with Tim Waite over here at a local wireless ISP here in Southern California. Tim, by the way, is one of the most knowledgeable wireless engineers and knowledgeable wired ISP engineers that I've ever had the pleasure to meet. So feel free to direct any questions to Tim that come to your mind. Or if you need someone with those skills, feel free to talk with Tim. And then just starting of this year, I returned to my own company, and here we are. Okay, WiMAX.
I noticed you're spelling it with capital W, capital M.
Yeah, if anyone knows the correct spelling of WiMAX,
I think it's,
is there a hyphen in there?
no, it's all capitals except for the I, according to the WiMAX forum.
Yeah, I've seen it so many ways, I just kind of took the path of least
I think
resistance.
it's like Wi-Fi. I like
So it's
spelling it
like
without the hyphen. but-
Uppercase W, lowercase I, without the hyphen,
Right.
and then MAX is all uppercase. That would make sense. Max should be Max, all uppercase.
But max doesn't mean like max.
No, it doesn't really mean maximum. It means microwave access. Now, really, it should be WiMAX then, AC instead of AX, because access has no.
I think they had
Excellent.
a trademark issue with Apple.
Okay. But now that we know how to spell it, we need to know what the heck it is. And here are 3 flavors of it. What it really is a set of protocols that attempts to standardize outdoor broadband wireless equipment interoperability. Kind of like WiMAX standardized wireless local area network stuff. WiMAX wants to do the same thing for outdoor equipment. Now, what's the significance of that? This is designed from the start for outdoor use. And as Mike mentioned earlier, the end user stations are not going to be colliding with each other, contending to get the attention of the access point. Once the end users, the laptops or it may not be laptops for a couple of years, the buildings that are connecting to the access point first get the attention of the access point. They're going to be authenticated and allotted a time slot, a series of time slots to send and receive traffic. So there's no contention between them, which would result in slowing of the network throughput. By the way, questions. We're not going to take any questions at the end. Ask your questions immediately when they come to mind. Okay?
Why is it taking 2 years for laptops?
I missed the first part?
Why does it take 2 years, a couple of years for laptops?
Question, why is it going to take a couple years for laptops? Because WiMAX networks are not going to spring up like wild grass after a rainstorm. It's going to take time and money to build these. And there are going to be problems with interference with existing networks. So it's going to be a couple of years before all that gets kind of worked
So it interferes
through.
with Wi-Fi networks?
I'm sorry.
It'll interfere with Wi-Fi networks?
Yeah, it'll interfere with Wi-Fi networks on 5 gigahertz, for example.
So even just an application, if a company wants to deploy it or something, there will be, will they want to do Wi-Fi or WiMAX, or
Okay.
there'll be some questions there.
I don't think there'll be an issue between Wi-Fi and WiMAX. I think Wi-Fi is going to still be for short range. This is designed for outdoor long range, but it's still, how can I say this? Spectrum is spectrum. Frequencies are frequencies. Layer 1 is still layer 1. It's like if we go out on the Pasadena freeway here at rush hour and the traffic is stopped, then we come along with a better car, a WiMAX car. It's still not going to go anywhere because the space is all taken up on the freeway. That's what happens with interference between WiMAX and any existing network.
Why don't we use 6 gigahertz instead of 5 gigahertz?
Well, we could use 6 gigahertz if it was legal to use 6 gigahertz. But it's not, unless you get a license. The telephone companies use 6 gigahertz to go between their mountaintops. So if we really want to cut to the bottom line to figure out how soon WiMAX is going to be deployed and how successfully, look at the spectrum that it's in. Look at the freeway that it's on. If the Pasadena freeway is full and we build another freeway and say, this freeway, this spectrum space, is only for WiMAX, then it's going to work great up there because there'll be no collisions with the existing network traffic.
So you think they might, one of the things would be opening up new spectrum just for WiMAX?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. If we had new spectrum just for WiMAX, and not only new spectrum, but is it going to be licensed or is it going to be license-free? Because if it's licensed spectrum, no one in this room is going to have $100 million to bid on it and win the right to be on that freeway. So what we really, really need is more new license-free spectrum.
I just saw that Congress, several senators actually, put a bill through to open up white space, right, or a demand or something like that in the next 180 days. Do you know?
In the transition from analog TV to digital TV, there's a lot of spectrum space, a lot of freeways that will be opened up. But who's going to have access to them, and what is going to cost? That's going to work its way through the political process. And there are
They all see dollar signs on
there are politicians on both sides. How do politicians get reelected? By having millions of dollars to give to the television networks to get their commercials on the air. Where do the millions of dollars come from? Who has millions of dollars to give for free to someone who wants to be reelected? Large corporations that have millions of dollars in their budget that they don't need to survive. So there's a tension, a dynamic between the companies that want all spectrum to be licensed and other people who want there to be a lot of license-free spectrum. So
Instead of license, how about use tax?
it's all becoming the same thing.
Well, if it's tax, it's tax still when you make the money. It's license, you gotta pay the money up front.
Yeah, but in the current budget, the budget bill that was just proposed last week, there's a proposal to tax the people who have spectrum who didn't pay for it in the beginning, like the taxi cab companies, for example. So the government realizes they can get billions of dollars out of spectrum by auctioning it off or by now trying to tax people who got it without having to pay for it. Because in the old days, you just applied for spectrum, and if you were qualified, you got it. So there's going to be this political tug-of-war between companies who have millions of dollars to buy, to auction and win the right to have exclusive use of this spectrum, and the rest of the people. And who do you think's going to win?
People with millions of dollars.
Typically the people with millions of dollars, because they have millions of dollars to give to the politicians through the lobbyists. So if we want more spectrum, we have to speak up and say, listen, we're the people, basically. We want the spectrum. We want spectrum for use without having to have millions of dollars.
And new spectrum, not like just 2, 4, 5.
Yeah, and new spectrum, because what's happening to
We only got those because they were junk spectrum.
Yeah, the existing spectrum we got because 15 years ago no one wanted it. So we got it, we made use of it, but now the large powers that be say, oh my God, if there's all this free spectrum, nobody's going to pay us to use our licensed spectrum. So they legislate, they lobby against free spectrum. So basically we need to find our voice as an industry to speak up and say to the politicians, remember, a politician is someone who writes the laws that we have to live by.
And a politician are paid by the corporation, so.
Politicians are paid by the people who have the big bucks,
Which is
the corporations, right. So to counter that, we have to become more vocal and say what is really in the public good,
Because they get voted in by the numbers of people.
in theory.
Yeah, but the number of people are ignorant, so they only go by what's
That's the
What's
problem.
been advertised.
advertised, and who controls the advertising, the money.
Exactly. Most people don't take the time and energy to educate themselves. So yes, they're not bad, they're just ignorant, which means they don't have all the information. That's all it means. Not that they're not smart, because people are smart. They just don't have all the information. So we have to be educators, as well as technologists, as well as politically active. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Fully active means that happens.
These are all great points. And thank you for bringing them up, because if I brought all of them up, it would be too strong of a position. Okay, what is pre-WiMAX? Everything that's not certified by the WiMAX forum to be WiMAX certified. Which means 2 orange juice cans and a piece of string are pre-WiMAX. Everything in this room is pre-WiMAX. A carrier pigeon is pre-WiMAX. To the best of my knowledge, there is no legally usable and legal spectrum, WiMAX forum certified WiMAX equipment that we can use yet in this country.
There's an RFC for carrier pigeon, isn't there?
Yes.
There is an RFC for carrier pigeon. It's,
For IP over carrier, over avian carrier.
is it RFC 1 or 2?
No, it's
Oh. Which is it?
It's somewhere in
In the 900s? Wow.
Somewhere right after TCP/IP,
It's
right?
way up.
I think on the WiMAX though, Jack, I think you can argue a
It was
pre-WiMAX
implemented.
system would be something that's maybe adherent to 802.16, but isn't certified WiMAX.
Okay, that's a good point, Jim. Why don't you repeat that?
I think if you wanted to call something pre-WiMAX, it could be something that adheres to 802.16, especially the 2003 variant, that isn't WiMAX certified yet.
It's not yet certified, but maybe
So-
certified or close to it.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, it's like when you know, in 884, you actually get certified, everyone's saying it follows the rules, but we don't. But there's some leeway for what the rules
It's
really
like,
are.
yeah, Wi-Fi is 802.11b HR. When you have something that's 802.11b that doesn't talk about the Wi-Fi stuff.
So the point is, I'm not saying all pre-WiMAX equipment is carrier pigeon. There is equipment out there that's very, very, very close to being certified that is that works today the same way that WiMAX is going to work. And in fact, there's a lot of equipment out there that's very, very similar to WiMAX, that's not even pre-WiMAX, that basically works as well today and has been working as well for a couple of years as WiMAX equipment will work. So WiMAX isn't that different than what's already here. It's just that the equipment needs to be certified to the standard, maybe tweaked a little and then certified to be called WiMAX.
So the equipment that was announced last January 19th,
Yes.
that was announced to be WiMAX certified.
It's WiMAX certified, but it's WiMAX certified at 3.5 gigahertz, which is not a legal band in the U.S. It is in Europe and other parts of the world.
So the WiMAX certification is at a certain frequency.
It's frequency band specific. Yeah.
I think a lot of companies are waiting for the Intel chipset for the CPE equipment for the U.S. deployment, from what I understand.
You mean the Intel chipset that'll go into laptops?
Yeah. Well,
But is that what frequency is that chipset going to be working?
5.8.
Right.
Yeah. See, I think 5.8 gigahertz will probably be where we'll see the first U.S. WiMAX certified equipment,
Which is unlicensed band?
which is license free. But there is a lot of existing.
Do your multiplication.
Like they're like
5.8.
5.8 phones, right?
Well, 5.8 cordless phones for inside, but there's a lot of 5.8 outdoor networks that are in place, at least in a city like this. Out in the middle of Kansas, there aren't as many. But it is a frequency band, 5.8 gigahertz, that is in use more and more and more and more these days. What about 5.3? Do you think we'll see WiMAX certification of 5.3 gigahertz?
No, because the power output level is max.
A little bit lower than at 5.8.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe if someone does a picocell design with mobile WiMAX in the future, you might see that used.
Yeah. Although you and I both know that we could still do a lot with 5.3.
Sure.
It's
So that's
just
what
not
I'm-
quite as far.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. You might see where someone's using WiMAX 5.8 to backhaul the picocell sites on mobile WiMAX at 5.3 would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Does anybody know anything about the Speakeasy WiMAX installation at the top of the Seattle tower?
The question is, does anybody know anything about the Speakeasy WiMAX installation at the top of the space?
Yeah.
Isn't that VL? That's
Yeah,
Alvarian
VL.
VL. It's not WiMAX.
Oh, it's not.
No.
Because-
Now, Alvarian VL is one of those vendors that's very similar to WiMAX. But in the last 3 or 4 months, there's been terrible confusion in the press. Some of it probably accidental, and some intentional, about all of these supposedly WiMAX networks. They're all pre-WiMAX.
Near WiMAX.
Near WiMAX. WiMAX-like, WiMAX-ready.
That's
It's the first
Clearwire.
cousin of WiMAX.
Clearwire did a whole bunch of that because in Florida they wanted.
Clearwire's name is in the press right now. They have a lot of 5.8 gigahertz pre-WiMAX networks, which are being called WiMAX networks. So the journalists don't know the difference between certified WiMAX and pre-WiMAX. And the marketing people are encouraging the blurring of the line.
What does certified WiMAX bring to the table that pre-WiMAX?
What does certified WiMAX bring to the table? How is it different? It's been tested by the WiMAX Forum Labs for compatibility with other makes of WiMAX equipment.
Meaning different manufacturers
Different
work
manufacturers.
together.
Yeah. But when we say different manufacturers work together, let's go back to the Wi-Fi example. Different vendors of customer premise equipment work with, let's say you have brand A access point, that'll work with B, C, D, and E brand of customer premise equipment. But it doesn't mean a brand B access point will work with the brand A access point. They don't talk to each other. It's the end user equipment that's compatible with any access point, but in one network the access points have to be the same make. I think that's what we'll probably see. Let me know, Tim, if you feel differently. In WiMAX too. In other words, an Aperto WiMAX access point should work with any vendor's WiMAX customer premise equipment. But an Aperto WiMAX access point in a network with an Alvarian WiMAX access point
They may not work.
They may not work, or the feature sets will be different. The configurations will be different.
Is it like Wi-Fi and that there's extensions too, that so that
Yeah.
if you're using brand A with brand A, you can get extra features out of it?
Yes, that's right. There'll be extra features, basically. Because why would these big companies, and these are the world's largest companies now who are jumping into this WiMAX game, why would they put out an access point that was compatible with every other? Why would a Siemens access point work with the Motorola access point? Because then there'd be price war, and they'd all lose. So they have to make theirs better, their access point.
Are you going to cover the Mac layer at all? No.
I don't think so,
I just
unless
wanted
there's
to make-
specific
Well,
questions.
one comment I wanted to make, WiMAX, if you look at the DOCSI 2.0, which is the digital cable infrastructure like cable modem, is almost identical to WiMAX Mac. It's,
Oh, really?
yeah.
That's interesting.
Oh, you know, I've also heard about like the cellular technologies, like OFDM and that kind of thing.
So that's WiMAX has no influence area.
When we say
There's a
Mac
lot of
layer, does
cellular,
everyone
right?
pretty much know
So
what we're
there's some
talking about?
historical.
Well, what?
Okay, let's talk about Mac layer. In the 7-layer OSI model, OSI stack there, layer 1 is the wireless layer, or in the Ethernet it would be the copper layer. That's the physical layer. The next layer up, layer 2, is the Mac layer. That's, how can we say?
The voltage is traveling over the wire, basically. What do you think?
No, it's not exactly.
Let's just generalize a little. Layer 2 is the layer that talks to the actual physical channel layer. Tim's point was that the MAC layer for WiMAX is very similar to the MAC layer for DOCSIS, DOCSIS, the cable TV specification,
Cable modem.
cable modem
For
specification.
like cable modem internet?
Yeah, it's Quad 64,
So what's the significance, basically?
well, you get the same QoS type features, the same authentication style features. You have similar, Quad 64, Quad 256 type modulation rate, similar speeds per spectrum size.
So it's similar to something that exists.
Yeah, and just in general, the headers, how they're constructed, if you really look at it, it's almost
How about the
identical.
chips?
Probably not. I mean, maybe at the core of the chip, but the frequencies they use on cable modem are completely different. Because cable is a shared antenna system.
So really,
Shared
why
layer.
is WiMAX revolutionary? Is it evolutionary?
Does WiMAX split the bandwidth available between upstream and downstream as well? Or?
Does WiMAX split the bandwidth available between upstream and downstream? Yes. Yes.
On 5A.
Oh, good point. On 5.8. Because remember, it's going to be specific for different frequency bands. Is it,
3.5 is full duplex at the access point. The license,
So each frequency has different rules, different WiMAX rules. Is
Yes.
that what's up there when you see 802, 16, 16A, and 16E?
that's similar, although those different modes will be on different frequencies as well. But yeah, the point is there are many different,
Flavors?
yeah, flavors is good. There are many different flavors of WiMAX, depending on the frequency, depending on the exact, whether it's fixed or mobile.
Or portable?
Or portable. So it's not just like Wi-Fi is 802.11 A, B, and G. Well, I don't know how many different flavors of WiMAX there are going to be, but it's going to be a lot more than 3. It could be 33 before another 3 years go by. So when we say WiMAX, let's go to the next technical level and see and say what we're really talking about, what band and what standard.
we might see a contention WiMAX on 3.6 in the US.
We probably will. But we'll get to 3.6 here.
that's all.
Okay, so we probably covered this. What's the significance of WiMAX? Okay, it's outdoor, we know. This is the fact that WiMAX, that this major industry effort is taking place now, kind of signals that, hey, outdoor broadband wireless has finally grown up. I mean, I started in '93. It was all proprietary. 1 second. And nobody believed it worked. I'd have to take a wireless bridge pull it up on the roof of a building with an antenna and an extension cord and a computer, and then go 3 miles away and do the same thing on the other end and show the IT manager, this end really will connect to that end. because he wouldn't believe it. But once he sees it, then it's a light turns on. Oh, this works. Well, the light's turned on for all of the big, not just for the big vendors, but for everyone. I mean, cell phones are assumed to work now. That's a relatively recent development, though. Wireless, broadband wireless outdoors is now, it's a given. Oh yeah, of course it works. Everyone knows that. Well, now that it's come of age, though, I'm using outdoor broadband wireless as a little abbreviation here. Yes?
Why don't WiMAX just have a repeater like a cell tower?
Have a what?
Repeater.
Oh, why
Like
doesn't
the cellular phone. The cellular phone, you have all those towers.
why doesn't
Those are
WiMAX
repeater.
have a lot of cell towers? It will. That's probably where it's going to be deployed. Because all those towers are out there, they're already owned by the big players. And why not put WiMAX on there?
Yeah, just rent the space.
You know, no, not us. They'll put WiMAX on there in their own licensed frequency bands. They don't want to rent to us. Well, a few of them might, but generally they'll do it themselves.
They're gonna backhaul. They'll probably backhaul to
Yeah,
themselves.
they might. Good point. Backhaul. How do we connect all those cell towers into this central office with backhaul? Well, now they have to use very expensive point-to-point microwave, licensed microwave radios, or in a few cases, relatively cheap point-to-point, license-free radios like 5.8 gigahertz, like ISPs use.
It's one of their hugest complaints is about building these cell towers is they can build a cell tower to say whatever it takes them, 2 weeks, whatever it takes, and it's like 6 months to get a T1 line installed for them. Backhaul that cell tower.
Well, they would serve themselves. Oh, you mean their backhaul might take 6 months because they have to buy it from another phone company maybe in that area. Well, they'll probably start using WiMAX to wirelessly backhaul cell sites. Then they don't have to pay that other telephone company for that T1 every month.
That's one thing WiMAX has an advantage over most of the pre-WiMAX equipment. It has a TDM mode in it as well on the Mac layer.
Okay, good point, Tim. One of the flavors of WiMAX is TDM, time division multiplexing, which is what the traditional telephone companies use in their networks already. So it'll be easier for them to connect what they already have over a WiMAX connection because that TDM mode is in the WiMAX. It's one of the flavors. So we've gone from little guys tinkering around with this, with our little wisps, to everyone wants a piece of the pie now. All of the big companies. And outdoor broadband wireless is recognized as a potential threat. So the fact that everyone now is jumping on the WiMAX bandwagon, to me, I could be wrong. I have been wrong.
That's when you thought you were wrong.
I was wrong once, but I forgot it's been so long. But I think in the next few years we're all going to experience a very significant change in the outdoor wireless industry. It's going to be a game for the big guys, the big boys. And I think there's going to be a lot of consolidation. Just a general feeling. I don't want that, but I think that's what's going to happen. Yes.
So you don't think that there's going to be, like, say, a community wireless network using WiMAX anytime in the future?
I think community wireless networks, I think that movement needs to grow and succeed. I think that backhauling those networks, there'll be a role for WiMAX in the license-free spectrum. It'll have to be done carefully so that it doesn't interfere. And remember, when something interferes, it's also going to be interfered with. It's a two-way street. If I interfere with you, my network interferes with yours, yours is going to also interfere with mine. So there's got to be cooperation and coordination.
So you think
But there's definitely a role, yeah.
So there's possibly a larger movement that will organize everything.
I think, you mean the
The small little
community wireless movement?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's slowly coming together. And then there's a lot of possibility there that it could really come together and form a significant lobbying bloc with Congress and really be a voice to be reckoned with. But from the little community nodes down to my laptop and your laptop, that's probably still going to be on 2.4 Wi-Fi. So there's where Wi-Fi and WiMAX can really work together. Nice and conductive. Yes, Tim?
One thing I think a lot of people don't realize is WiMAX base stations are right now in the 3.5 band are $30,000, $40,000, $50,000.
Are they that low?
That low.
I heard like 100.
Oh yeah. There's some, yeah, some of the configurations.
Yeah.
So
So,
just the CPE.
The CPE right now is $1,000, $2,000.
yeah, it's still up there because there's none of it exists that's legal yet in this country. But
And no economy of scale yet either.
it'll probably start out at $1,000, and then, you know, there's also a myth out there that CPE is going to be $100 by next week.
What's CPE?
CPE is the abbreviation for customer premise equipment. It's out of the telephony industry, but it's now applied to wireless. Like that wireless card, that's CPE. It's not going to be $100 for a couple of years, 3-4 years, maybe. The networks have to be built
That's what Intel will bring, right?
eventually,
Like they brought with the Centrino, the cheap.
but I don't think they can knock the price down until the volumes go up. And the volumes can't go up till the networks are out there and working and not being interfered with. So it's going to take more than next week. It's going to be a couple of years. I think. Like I said, I could be wrong. Any questions, comments on that? Yes.
Did any of the interference rejection that the FCC's been talking about get worked into the WiMAX standard?
Which interference rejection? You mean the contention rules on 3.6
The changes in terms of responsibility for rejection of interference as opposed to responsibility for lack of generating interference.
The question is, did any of the interference reduction techniques that the FCC's been talking about get worked into the WiMAX standards? I don't think so. The only thing that, I'm trying to recall, in the 5.8,
That would be where I would imagine it, yeah.
in the 5 gigahertz ranges, 5.4 and 5.3 actually, the FCC has stated that new equipment has to have what's called dynamic frequency selection, DFS.
That's it.
And the idea behind DFS is, if I want to transmit to you, first I have to listen for military radar, because the military claims that they have radar in the 5 gigahertz range, which can't be interfered with. So I have to listen, is there any military radar here?
Isn't that a ridiculous statement that we're going to interfere with military radar at like hundreds and thousands of watts?
Remember, the FCC, although it's a technical organization, is also driven by politics at a little bit less intense level. So if someone like the Pentagon says, we object to more license-free spectrum at 5.4 gigahertz because they're going to interfere with our military radar, then it's going to take a couple of years to resolve that. Now, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought that would kill this new spectrum at 5.4 gigahertz. I thought the effort was really to kill it. But apparently there's just an agreement reached on how that DFS is going to work. What it means is I have to listen, and if I hear no one, then I can transmit to you on that frequency. But if I hear something, is it military radar? I don't know. They don't tell me what that sounds like. But if I can hear something, then I have to change frequency.
It's the giant stomping you hear when you listen.
I've been hearing that. It's
Front end overload.
or front-end overload.
Military though, more than one.
Say again?
We've been contacted by the military more than one because we're at 915 megahertz
Yeah.
and 918.
Yeah.
They have something at 1.2, a link system for their radar.
But how would your 918 megahertz interfere with their 1.2
Because we're
gigahertz?
on the ground, where there's transmitters on the ground. This is mountaintop radar. It was Utah and I forget the other state. I went to Utah.
I'd love to talk with you afterwards and get more details, because I haven't heard of this before. Because you need to be on their same frequency or right next to them physically before you could interfere.
All we did is go out there and we started putting shielding until they said, okay, we don't hear you.
Were they,
wouldn't tell us the frequency.
were they on the same mountain as you were on?
We're on the ground. We're on the road, so
I'd love to talk with you some more and
it was interesting.
get more info. What was the point? Ah, yes. Before I can transmit to this gentleman, I have to listen, and if I hear anything, I have to change frequency to a frequency where I didn't hear anything. Now you'd have to change frequency, now we can communicate. So this dynamic frequency selection is supposed to help, and if, in theory, it will help. It will help. It's not a bad idea. The only problem was it took 3 years to work it through, and finally agreement was reached. We will get some new spectrum at 5.4 gigahertz. That's the good news.
I would say one problem is not that you're going to interfere with that 100,000 watt black. But after that radar transmits, then very sensitive receivers come up to listen. And they're trying to listen for a little return coming back.
Which
and
is a
even
billionth of a billionth of the power of the black.
Yeah, and you will create noise on their screens, basically.
You'll
And
jam them.
that's where the interference comes
Yeah,
from.
excellent point. Okay, so DFS is coming about, and I think we'll see more and more of it as there's more and more people asking for frequency space, because it's a good idea.
Is there any legislation in progress that would apply DFS to retrospective hardware, or is it only for the new spectrum?
It's only for the new hardware. So if we have, right, it'll apply to 5.3, 5250, 5.25 to 5.35, and some of us have systems on those frequencies. But since we have our equipment already, the new regulation will not be applicable. Okay, WiMAX Ford is the industry group that's driving WiMAX pretty well, actually. It's a nonprofit corp made up of all of the big companies and the small companies and the mid-sized companies that want to be in on the action.
The WiMAX company over in Fountain Valley, actually. Exonic Systems,
What do they make?
they're making WiMAX, just chipset.
Chipset?
The chip, the radio, the whole thing.
Wow, what's the name?
Exonic Systems, they're on the forum site.
Exonic Systems.
Yeah, so someone should go look at them.
Okay, we covered that already. See, your questions were so good you anticipated all the issues. I guess we're done. Just about. I don't know, there might be one more slide. Or two or three. I did. Oh, there are a few more. What about competition? You've anticipated most of these issues too. Outdoor broadband fixed wireless market, wireless ISPs. WiMAX will compete with the existing companies that are out there, the Tower Streams and the Next Phases and the Color Broadbands and the NextWebs and the Covads. In fact, since most of them are already using pre-WiMAX equipment at 5.8 gigahertz, they'll already know how to design and deploy these networks, which is good for them. It's only when the price comes down of the WiMAX equipment will they be able to switch over. Question? You've been very quiet tonight. Okay. WiMAX will compete, I think, with 3G, with the EVDOs and the HSDPAs and the other emerging flavors of 3G in the mobile market, and maybe even in the fixed market too. Because if I don't need to pay a wireless ISP anymore, if I can have one of those in my house, I don't have to pay $100 a month, I can pay $60 now. And then WiMAX comes along and says, hey, I'll give it to you for $45. Who wouldn't go for that? So I think the marketing is going to get even more confusing. The outdoor broadband market's going to get really interesting. Will WiMAX displace 3G? It might. If the price, as Tim pointed out, of the base stations comes down, from 100,000 to 20,000, 15,000, the cellular companies are going to say, forget EVDO. An EVDO base station costs me $100,000 and a WiMAX costs me $25,000.
Does that mean the phones will be like WiMAX?
It's not out of the, will the phones be WiMAX? Why not?
Is it possible with WiMAX's architecture to have so many users on one base node?
See, the WiMAX architecture is going to be the same as the cellular architecture. A bunch of cell sites backhauled to one central location. And throughput is going to be the question. How many, with one cell site, how many end users can I service?
Well, the numbers that the marketing people are quoting right now, like hundreds of megabits, are those aggregated bandwidth of all the client nodes, or is that from?
Bandwidth, see, unfortunately, bandwidth is the least understood concept and the hardest to engineer when you design a cellular type network, because bandwidth, actually throughput, depends on what happens at layer 1, the wireless layer. So if you've got licensed spectrum, you don't have interference from other network operators, because you're the only one licensed to use those frequencies. You can still have interference from your other cell sites, self-interference. But your throughput capability is higher because you don't have interference from other operators coming and going without notice. But if you're deploying a WiMAX network in license-free spectrum, higher noise level, unpredictable coming up and down of the noise, your throughput's not going to be as great, so you're going to have more sites and a more complex network. So throughput is such a changing quantity. There are so many variables. It's really only, if you see a marketing piece that says, here, buy my WiMAX base station, you're going to serve 10,000 users. It's not saying with what application, with how much throughput per user, with what duty cycle from each user. There's so many unanswered, unaddressed variables that you darn well better take that marketing information, not with a grain of salt, with a whole salt shaker full of salt.
That 10,000 could be something like our database supports this many records.
Good point, Mike. What we've seen in the Wi-Fi industry is marketing literature that says, buy my Wi-Fi access point. It'll support 1,500 connections or 1,500 users. And we see that. Read the specs on any of the access points that you have at home. It doesn't mean you can serve 1,500 users. It means 1,500 users can authenticate. There's room in the bridging table inside the access point for 1,500 MAC addresses. The addresses of 1,500 computers. But if more than 50 of them go on at any one time, all the time slots are used up. No more throughput. Everything starts to slow down. So before you buy a piece of an access point, a piece of wireless equipment, don't just look at how many connections the marketing literature says. Look at how much throughput can actually be delivered and start to think, now how can I divide that throughput up between the people I want to serve? For example, a Wi-Fi access point can deliver about 5 megabits of throughput if there's not a lot of interference. So if I've got 5 meg of throughput, how many people do I want to serve with how much of that throughput? Do I want to give each one 64 kilobits? Or do I want to give each one 5 megabits? Or 1 megabit? This is where the business planning kicks in. How am I going to divide it up? How many people won't be on all the time so I can actually oversell to more people? So those are the questions that you want to ask and answer for yourself when you're planning to deploy a network. Now, I do have a spreadsheet that helps, that I give out when I train wireless ISPs to help them quantify, put in different number of users at different throughput levels, at different overselling ratios, so they can estimate how many users they can serve from one access point and how much money they'll make, assuming no interference. If you would like to look at that sometime, send me an email and I'll send it to you, and then we can discuss it if you want. I mean, for most businesses, the bottom line is to make a profit. Stay in business. Grow the business. sell it at a huge profit, retire to the Bahamas. So it's important to know in advance how many users will pay us for the good quality service that we want to deliver to them.
I heard the new hotspot to retire to is Dubai. You know, over there.
Dubai, yeah, I heard that there's a lot of importing and exporting there. You can get anything you want over there,
Yeah.
as long as it comes in a shipping container.
Exactly.
You know, gold, weapons, sex slaves, whatever, just get it in the shipping container.
Just fit it in that, you have to get on the 20 by 40 or.
You gotta get it in there, right.
Bacteria.
Bacteria is small. Okay, so ask the question.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what spectrum am I going to use for my WiMAX network? Will it be crowded? Will it be licensed? Will it be unlicensed but uncrowded? Unlicensed, probably 5.8 gigahertz, which is today it's crowded. 5.4 gigahertz once the dynamic frequency selection regulations are actually released. Now that they've decided, they've got to tell us what they are. But it's almost here. 5.3 gigahertz, don't have to go quite as far, assuming equipment's available. 3.65 gigahertz. This is a band that the FCC came up with last year that said, here's a new license-free band, 3.65 gigahertz. However, you have to use what's called a contention-based radio system. In other words, it's got to listen before it can transmit, and if it hears something it can't transmit. The FCC didn't specify the regulations, how that contention-based system is going to work. So the use of this new spectrum is kind of on hold for another year or so, till hopefully there's agreement on what the FCC means by contention-based. And then hopefully we'll have this new band at 3.6 gigahertz, which is very close to the 3.5 gigahertz band, where the currently certified WiMAX equipment is existing for other parts of the world. So it should be very simple for the manufacturers to take like the Apertos and the Red Lines, to take 3.5 already certified equipment, just retune it slightly for 3.6 gigahertz, which will be license-free here in the U.S., and sell a bunch of it.
Actually, 3.6 is a non-exclusive license.
That's a good point. Tim reminded me, 3.6 is licensed, but it's different than current license spectrum. Because currently, when you license a frequency or a band, when you bid on it and win it, you're the only one who has the use of it in that area. No one can interfere with you. But the FCC, actually not now, but the older FCC, a year or so ago, said, well, let's try something new. We'll give more spectrum, we'll make spectrum available for people who can't afford to bid on it, but we're going to require that they license it, just so we know who they are, and the license will be non-exclusive. So you can license 3.6 gigahertz in LA, I can license it, you can license it,
Actually, maybe
you
not.
can license it.
Maybe not in LA because of the Earth Station or.
On the coast it's going to be harder because of existing systems, but in the Midwest, multiple people can have licenses in that same band in the same area. So there'll be interference, but there'll be dynamic frequency selection, or some type of a contention, a quote, contention-based mechanism, so that if you're transmitting, I have to listen, and when I hear you, I can't interfere, I have to go another frequency within the same band. So it's different. It's a new combination of how to put a network on the air without having to have a lot of money.
I think the idea is that you don't go down to Fry's and buy equipment for this band. Is the idea.
So you have to go through
It's
a
a little
more
bit like-
rigorous process.
Like ham radio, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because ham radio is the same thing. We have to get licensed. But we're not the only one. We don't have exclusive use of the frequencies. Except in ham radio, we can interfere with each other accidentally or even intentionally. But with 3.6 gigahertz, intentional or accidental interference will be dealt with automatically by the wireless equipment, which is listening first. But yeah, ham radio is a good model for this 3.6. In other words, there's got to be more responsibility to it, the FCC feels, than the current Wi-Fi situation.
it's almost anything goes.
Yeah, where it's just about anything goes. I don't know if I agree with that. I do agree with that. Currently, the bands are getting so noisy and so trashed up that it's getting harder and harder to make reliable networks work over any kind of distance. There's nothing wrong, in my view, with responsibility. Licensed spectrum. The cell companies have a lot of licensed spectrum. They're buying it up. They're buying it at auction for millions and billions of dollars. So they have pieces of spectrum all over the place. They'll probably go there with their WiMAX deployments, at least their backhaul deployments, and even their networks to connect to the end users. Because it would be licensed, there'll be no one else there to interfere with them, and it's an exclusive license that they're buying. Okay, well, I think we've pretty much covered this. How different will WiMAX be from broadband fixed wireless today? It's going to be very, very similar, except it'll be on some different bands and some of the same bands. Some licensed bands and some license-free bands. Thanks, Mike. I was going to ask you if you would do that. It'll be very similar. If you want to build a WiMAX network, what's the best thing we could do today?
Lobby your congressman.
Lobby your congressman. We all need to do that. What else? How are we going to learn how to design and deploy these networks?
Buy some equipment that's available.
Buy some equipment today. Some 5.8 gigahertz equipment. Design a network, deploy it, make it work, measure the throughput, figure out how to keep the antennas from getting water in the cable. Then we're building the skill set. Figure out how to reduce interference, how to do a site survey, how to, instead of dynamic frequency selection, let's use manual frequency selection. Okay, you're on frequency A, I'm going to go on frequency B so we don't interfere. Or if you're on frequency A and everyone else is on frequency B, I'm going to turn my antenna so it's at right angle to your antenna. So the cross-polarization will cut down the interference. We need to build the skill set so that we can successfully deploy these WiMAX networks. It's going to be the very same skill set. It's in use today. Look at the industry leaders, the WISPs. Look at the community networks too. They're learning a lot by just going out and doing it. The bottom line is always going to be throughput. It's always going to be throughput. Because people are always willing to give us this if we give them throughput reliably. However, if we falter, if we fail, if we don't do our homework, if we give them throughput that works like most of the time, but stops unpredictably and starts and slows down and stops and then goes real fast and then stops, they're not going to be willing to give us that stuff. Because of this. Interference is what's going to make our network go slow and stop and go fast and go slow. Interference, as you now know, is a factor. So WiMAX really is not magic, especially in license-free spectrum. It's really not magic even in licensed spectrum, but it's easier in licensed spectrum. It's going to be subject to interference and throughput reduction, just like is happening today. I guess that's kind of my bottom line. This is cool stuff. It's magical stuff. We all have the ability to make the invisible, this invisible magical communications power, this force, become visible, make it manifest in people's lives. Get information over this invisible force field. As long as we do our homework, as long as we're willing to invest a little time and energy and gain the skills to do it. And you know how much you're interested in this or not. Probably everyone in here is interested in this or you wouldn't be here. So that means you're actually one of the chosen people who is supposed to go out and do good things with this.
I just want to know when I'm going to get it.
Well, we don't need it because we can go get the equipment that's out there now. We can study the techniques that are in use now because those are the skill sets that will make us successful. Then when we do get it, we're going to be the experts because we already know how to deploy it and deliver that reliable service.
I'm just a user. I just want to use it.
Well,
I don't care.
when are we going to actually be able to use WiMAX? Well, first there have to be networks. And we don't have any networks right now. Even if we had certified equipment in the U.S., we have no networks. To build a network that works outdoors, even in licensed spectrum, it takes time and it takes money. It takes design and testing. So my best guess is more than a year, maybe as much as 3 years. But pre-WiMAX equipment, the pre-WiMAX equipment is very much like certified WiMAX equipment. That service is available today from a wireless ISP or a college campus network in many cases.
What wireless ISP?
Where do you live?
Downtown LA.
Clearwire?
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 Clearwire.
How much?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
Clearwire. Okay, I'll remember the name.
Okay.
Someone asked,
It's not as cheap as DSL.
Oh.
Oh yeah, good point.
Not $14.95.
It's not as cheap as DSL. Why is DSL so cheap? Because the telephone companies can afford to take money out of their other budgets and provide DSL introductory service for $14, $15 a month for the first year, and then it'll go up to 30 and then to 50. But if we're going to deploy a wireless network, are we going to do it in downtown LA to compete with $14 DSL?
No.
Who has got the deepest pockets of anyone in the world? Telephone companies. So we can't compete head on. That would be, some people will, but there are two kinds of people in the world. People who want good things to happen to them and people who want bad things to happen to them. So since all of us in this room are people who want good things to happen to us, right? Is there anyone who's not? One or two? Okay. We want to deploy our wireless network somewhere where there's no broadband. What was that community you were telling me about on the way over here?
The New Mexico?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the moon?
Yeah.
Uphigh.net?
What is it?
Uphigh.net? UPHI?
UPHI, uphigh.net in New Mexico. There are literally thousands of communities in this country that have no broadband, only dial-up.
Alaska.
And the phone
What
companies,
Alaska?
and the phone
You
companies
should be welcome there.
refuse to put DSL in there because it costs so much. You know, if it costs like whatever, $100,000 to put a switch that's capable of doing DSL, and there's only 100 people out there.
And
The
never make any
economics,
money. Yeah.
And under
So-
Alaska, just right out there. They've got the
Yeah,
mountains
we
around.
could even go out into the Central Valley. We can go out to the Mojave Desert.
I think
You can go to Arizona.
Alaska.
I don't know. You'll ask her?
Yeah, there's nothing.
one thing I think that we'll see in the next few years if they get their way, these telcos, once they have a monopoly in the market, they're going to start trying to do this 2-layer or 3-layer, tiered internet where, you pay $14.95 for most of the internet and $29.95 for more of the internet and $45.95 for.
That's like what they're doing with
that's what
Google,
they're-
right?
That's what they're trying to do, and
With Google and all the big.
if they get their way.
So Tim has highlighted this strategy that's becoming more and more apparent, and that is, if you're already a monopoly, you want to continue to become a bigger monopoly, and knock out your competition any way you can. And that means figuring out ways to charge more for the people who can afford to pay less, so that you maintain your monopoly position.
They're actually already doing it. Cox has got tiered service, although I don't think they've been very successful at selling it. Certainly DSL lines.
Let's talk about tiered service for a minute, because as wireless ISPs, we have to offer tiered service too. Everyone doesn't get the full pipe. We have to offer different throughput levels of service, which is tiered service. But what Tim's talking about now is tiered service based on the application, the layer 7. In other words, if I want to send email to you, maybe that'll go through. But if I want to pull one of your web pages down, they're going to charge me more for that. Might be the same amount of throughput, but it's a higher value application, and if they can charge me more, they will. And this,
like opening up the letter, charging different rates on what's inside.
What a great example. Yeah, they're going to open our mail, look inside. If it's a bill, then they're going to charge us more to deliver it. But if it's a junk mail, they're going to give it to. They're going to deliver it for less. So
Or
this,
maybe like how UPS charges more based on
isn't it?
bandwidth.
It's based on what?
Bandwidth, the size, the weight of the boxes.
Well, now this isn't actually weight. This is
This is
how are you going to use it? This is application layer.
It's already paid for by the people sending out the data. They don't get the internet for free.
Yeah, I mean, because like Bell South, I think was one of the ones especially that was trying to get the service providers, you know, Google, the internet companies, to pay them to use their network. Because it's not like the client is already, it's not like the customer is already paying them. But
See, bits are bits. Data is data.
and I hate the fact that
But if they look at
companies
the
don't
data and
see
say, oh, this looks pretty valuable to them, we're going to charge you more because they really want this. And this is just junk. This is spam. We're going to let that go for free. So this whole idea of charging more based on the value to the end user is kind of being summarized with the term net neutrality right now.
It's actually more the origin of the data. In terms of you can buy premium access. The excuse they're using is that they need to reserve spectrum for their implementations of voice over IP.
Their
So
own
they need
use.
to freeze out or lower priority to
Yeah.
Vonage or somebody else who is doing voice over IP.
Yeah.
But they're not getting a
So,
cut of it.
so let's look at that. AT&T, formerly SBC, formerly Bell, part of those back then, is saying we're going to provide video over our network to end users, so we're going to reserve 80% of our network for our own video, and the other 20% is for everything else,
Not only that,
which is we're going to charge more for to be sure that the volume doesn't become so great that it overwhelms our 80% that we're reserving for ourselves. And I can see both sides to that, actually. Even though I think AT&T is evil, I can see the point that, hey, we're spending a lot of money. We want to reserve some of this bandwidth that we're building for our own use. I can see that. But how they're going to use that argument to wring more money out of everyone else, that's the interesting part.
And the key point is whether Congress will legislate net neutrality, which is again, one of the countervailing factors for doing that.
Yeah, will Congress legislate this net neutrality? As of last week, they had a hearing on it, and I saw the news report that said all the elected officials went away confused, and so they did nothing. So how does Congress know? They have to rely on people to tell them, well, what does this mean? What is the importance? Who's going to be hurt? Who's going to benefit? Who's telling Congress what it means? Are we going to tell them, or is that, the $150 million, I don't even know how big the K Street lobbying interest is right now. It's probably billions of dollars a year. Who are they going to listen to? Who's going to pay for their commercials when they run for re-election? Who's going to cast a vote for them? Doesn't matter who's going to count the votes.
Well, I think your DSL networks are oversold on residential, about 100, 200 to 1. So the big issue is that they don't want to build that out to a reasonable ratio because then the profit margins are out the window as it is anyway.
Okay. So Tim's point is the DSL networks are already too small. They're overloaded. People's service isn't as fast as they become accustomed to. So,
If you actually use your internet connection, they don't make money on it.
yeah, they're really probably not making money. They're gaining customers, but the customers are getting less and less.
Isn't that like the all-you-can-eat buffet model, where like a few people come in and wipe you out, but most people just eat less than the food's worth?
Or the line is so long that you never get up to the food.
The interesting thing is, on the DSL line, you actually have a head throttling built in. Because of that oversold, they can control it more on the last mile. And their contention is that the backbone networks are what's getting clogged. But those are the same backbone networks that consisted of tons of dark fiber left over from the Telecom overbuild of a few years
So
ago.
you're saying there's plenty of fiber there.
I'm saying
Well,
that it's a little suspicious to start preaching scarce bandwidth at this point.
It always seems the easy upgrade path in DSL in that if they want more bandwidth, they have fiber. They can just plug different fiber technology into this fiber that goes over there. It's not a huge upgrade path for them to get more bandwidth with the CO.
So that's a good point. You can always put more data with different light wavelengths over the same fiber. Not always, but often.
A problem though, a 10 gigabit OC192 card's $250,000, and the chassis it goes in is another $250,000.
So it's not free, but it's possible. It's probably within the reasonable realm, actually, as long as your business plan makes sense.
The point is, the OC192 line is expensive, but the modulation technique that you use on that doesn't necessarily require you to upgrade the fiber, which is the real expensive part.
No, but the $250,000 card compared to a $20,000 OC48 card is a big difference.
So when you hear these OC terms, are talking about huge amounts of bandwidth on fiber optic cable that's spread through about most cities, all cities anyway, downtown anyway. But because you guys should do the business planning for.
I have one thing I wanted to address. He was asking a question about WiMAX being deployed for these community networks.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't see it being used that much for community networks, mostly because the base stations, even for 5.8, are probably going to be $20,000 per sector, initially at least. But all the goodness of WiMAX pretty much is available in most OFDM chipsets, such as Atheros and a few others, and they're using it in.
If you were to build with an Atheros chipset an access point that was almost WiMAX, that had almost all the features that WiMAX would have, how much would it cost to build that today? How much could you build it for?
About $500.
That much, huh?
With the best stuff.
Okay, with the best hardware and software, about $500 to build an access point that is this close to being what WiMAX is.
Matter of fact,
today.
Watch Atheros, because when WiMAX comes out, I bet you will have a chipset that they'll be able to do it in software. That will cost $20, $30, you know.
Oh, you mean, say that again?
The company, the Atheros chipset, they make the chipset.
Yeah, Atheros, okay, chip company, manufacturer.
I think they will have a chipset that will probably be able to be WiMAX, that you can use stuff we're putting together now with mini PCI cards and things, that you probably can just a software upgrade.
Okay, good
And
point.
it's going to be like
is
host app.
doing Wi-Fi.
Like what?
Like the host app.
Okay, why don't you just define that for those who
Well,
aren't familiar?
host app is, it started out as a Linux sort of formal upgrade for certain wireless cards that basically enabled you to turn your computer into a wireless base station.
Access point.
Well,
Because the Atheros chips do a lot of stuff. I mean, all the chipsets do a lot of stuff in software. So that's why it becomes an upgrade to be a lot of manufacturer stuff. It's like, well, we could be WiMAX if we just upgraded our software on our boxes. And
So let me ask you
So,
this.
one second. So Tim could build with a WiMAX chipset, build a WiMAX access point for $500. And yet, if we go out and buy it, it might be $100,000.
Well,
Now-
if there's a market, I mean, it only takes a market. If it costs $500 for me to build it, and there's a market for selling those, someone will do it.
that's
I
what
mean,
I'm saying. I think they'll do it. I think they will.
Now it's going to have to be certified, but if somebody finds a way to lower the cost of certification,
By
That was my
certified,
question.
you can just have a sort of proprietary but open source.
yeah, there's no point to certify it if it doesn't have to be certified, compatible with every piece of CPU.
Yeah,
That's
if
a
it
good
doesn't
point.
have to carry
It
a
won't
logo.
need to be certified.
Doesn't have to carry a logo. You just say, well, yeah, it works. You know,
That's it. You want to be in the WiMAX business, sell the equipment that costs you $500 to build.
Only difference is the 3.5 gear right now is full duplex at the access point. So that's why a lot of people are saying, oh, that you're not going to see this community WiMAX. But the 5.8 isn't, because they consider the cost is going to be too high.
But what if we had full duplex CPE equipment for the customer end too?
They're not, there's no one talking about that.
What if we use the same chipset as in the access point, which only costs us, say, $50?
Oh, you can make your own, but it's not going to be WiMAX.
It doesn't have to be, as long as it's the same as WiMAX. It just doesn't have the WiMAX logo.
I agree.
Well, I'd imagine that full duplex at the base station is a lot more complex than at the CPE, right?
Well, it's complex at both ends.
Well, what the idea is, you don't have contention as much. I could be Jack's the base station. I'm transmitting to him, and he's able to, he's receiving, and he's able to transmit to him at the same time. So you
Yeah.
double
Or
capacity.
Tim's transmitting, and I'm listening with this chip, and I'm transmitting back to him with this chip, so it's full duplex.
Yeah, we're full duplex.
It's more complex technically, but once you got it, you got it. As Tim mentioned earlier, TDM, time division multiplexing, is already prevalent out there in the existing networks, telecom networks. So is there opportunity in WiMAX? Yeah, there is. If you're technically interested, there's plenty of opportunity. Again, build your skill set. So not only will you be able to build the equipment, but you'll be able to help people successfully deploy it and avoid interference, so that your end users will be really successful. Yes, sir, you have a question?
What was time division multiplexing again?
It's time division multiplexing, is it just as it says, time division. It's time slots that can be split up in different ways.
So if I think of packets of time, it
Yes.
needs to get, okay.
Yes, packets of time is a good way to think of it. Do you want to add anything to that?
Well, it's, if you take a second and divide it into 1,000 slices, and that'd be your that's
Your time slots.
Your time slots.
Now, we're doing that with Wi-Fi, but it's not full duplex.
Yeah.
At first I have to transmit, and then I have to...
Well, then you also have variable packet size in Wi-Fi though.
Yeah.
In time division, you don't.
Mike, you were about to ask?
I was going to ask something about the certification process. Do you know how much that costs?
I don't know. Does anyone know how much it costs? I think it's fairly expensive right now.
Because there's
You have to
Because-
have multiple vendors get certified too.
Yes,
You
you
can't
do.
certify anything if there's no one else working in the same spectrum as you.
That's right. You can't certify that you're interoperable without demonstrating you can talk to more than one other vendor. Or more than, I think you need 3 vendors to demonstrate interoperability.
oh, that's why 3 came out at once on that.
I think so,
section.
yeah. And some companies are waiting. They're not certifying yet because they say that the cost is too much right now to certify for, I guess, what the market will be that they
Well, they
anticipate.
say that the certification weren't the final, things are still going to be changing, so they're going to have to go back and do it again. and
Recertify and recertify.
Recheck and
Like
until,
a Microsoft test.
I guess, yeah.
So certification is fairly expensive right now.
Okay.
But what if someone started a certification lab and had the lab certified? You could probably charge a lot less. Really, I think Tim kind of keyed me into this. I think the real opportunity is to manufacture WiMAX equipment. The chipsets are going to be coming down in price. Just don't have it certified. Just sell it as a network solution.
Then you can-
Proprietary network solution if you want. Although the CPE, the customer premise equipment, the wireless cards from different vendors will still work with your brand of access point.
And then on your marketing material, you just say free WiMAX.
And that's good stuff, right? Everyone knows that free WiMAX is great.
In the press release, you just drop the free and
Yeah.
go away.
Yes, sir.
And then we're thinking here a lot of internet access, et cetera,
Yes.
LA just put in, they're putting in a bunch of security cameras all over downtown.
Mhm.
They just put them up Broadway. And I was quite surprised to see they just put them on the building I work in. This camera sitting on the
They
corner of the
only
building.
put it on that building because you work there.
I've got a back way I sneak in, so it doesn't do anything. Anyway, they got the camera, there's a piece of conduit going up 12th floor to the roof, and there's an electrical source up there, and it goes up to a little box up on the smokestack, a little square
Yeah.
square panel about like that,
What was-
pointing off the city hall.
What was your surprise?
In other words, there's a lot of things out there. For example, police networks, these security networks, similar.
There is a
And,
lot out there.
A lot out there where we're kind of thinking here in terms of our access to
The
the internet. and so
Oh, you're absolutely
So
right.
there's a whole world out there.
The world is going wild and crazy for wireless. Everyone wants it to do everything.
There's
It's good and it's bad. It's good because it's cool stuff, it's great magic, and we can work with it. It's bad because not enough frequency space. We're all going to be bumping into each other. So those are the two sides of it.
one special thing about this is there's a 4.9 gigahertz band that's used for public safety, and they're using that a lot for video
That's a
and
good point.
and into like police cars and from helicopters. It's a whole setup that's for, public safety.
That's these boxes I see on the top of the light posts.
Those are probably wireless. I mean, if they can do it because it's, you can use a 5 gigahertz antenna, which you can buy online in the 4 gigahertz,
This is-
4.9 band.
See,
and
this
the
is
equipment's very
important.
similar.
This is important. This 4.9 gigahertz band is only for municipal, government, public safety type use. It can't be used for a commercial purpose. Can't use it for a wireless ISP. It's licensed, but it's a non-exclusive license. So the city of Buena Park can license it, so can the city of Cerritos. Even though they're next to each other, they don't want to interfere with each other. But there won't be any interference from Wi-Fi or WiMAX or Next Phase or Clear Tower Stream or...
Here's a question for you though on 4.9. Was it ever clarified if you could become a 4.9 operator for cities though?
Not to my knowledge.
You see what I'm saying though?
Yeah. But that is a great issue. However, the point is, if someone comes to us and says, I'm from the city of Pasadena, and Pasadena actually is kind of, would like to use wireless. We want a network that just our police cars can connect back to our 9/11 center. Do we think, gosh, I could build that for them. I know how. 5.8 gigahertz, though, is awfully crowded, and 2.4 gigahertz is terrible. It would never work reliably. And I recall actually having a conversation with Pasadena that kind of went along those lines. But we need to think further. 4.9 gigahertz, that's for public safety. There's no interference from Wi-Fi or wireless ISPs or the ABC company connecting their buildings together. So we want to think 4.9 gigahertz is the place to go. And the equipment is 5 gigahertz equipment in many cases that's low cost, has chipsets already, retuned down a little in frequency to 4.9 gigahertz. If you want to have a good business, manufacture 4.9 gigahertz equipment based on the chipsets and the software that have already been developed for 5 gigahertz. You won't need WiMAX certification for it either.
Proxim is actually has.
Proxim does this, yeah.
Like you said, they're retooling.
You know, Mike, why don't we get someone in here and do a talk just on 4.9 gigahertz? Regulations, equipment, costs, support. That would be fascinating. Yes?
What's on 5 gigahertz there?
Well, 5 gigahertz, there are 4 license-free subbands in that spectrum. What's on it is all the stuff you'd expect on license-free spectrum, from cordless phones to outdoor
Not
networks.
between 5 and 6 gigahertz. There's no 5 gigahertz
Right,
band we're
exactly.
talking about. We're talking about the 5.3 and the 5.8.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so there's more and more stuff on it all the time, but it's still possible to use it as long as you know how to design a network around the existing networks so you don't interfere with them.
802.11a.
Say again?
802.11a is in
Yeah,
there.
802.11a.
I just wondered that
No, there's no 5 gigahertz.
Yeah.
because I was wondering if
Equipment.
the antennas were easily adaptable. So
Yeah, I'm sorry, I generalized too much. I shouldn't have said 5 gigahertz. I should have said the range from 5.15 to 5.875 gigahertz, 5 to 6 gigahertz range. Yeah, thank you. So there's an awful lot of opportunity to have fun all day, which is what Tim and I try and do with this wireless stuff. And several of the others of you also have discovered that it's really fun stuff. And since you are now magicians, or soon will be, it should be even more fun. I think that might be it. Mike, let me just double check. Okay.
You're welcome.
This is great. Thank you all. You-
I have a drawing for a free spectrum or something.
Yes.
Free spectrum?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Okay,
that's
have
around. I got some of my cards.
And it comes with a free bridge. I have what is this?
Switch.
8-port 10100 switch to raffle off or give away. I'm not going to do a number guessing. So first of all, I figured we could, whoever wants it can stand up. Okay. And then we'll ask a question from the presentation. Something like, what does WiMAX mean? What does it stand for? That was on the first slide, if you remember.
Wireless microwave access.
Okay, what's your guess?
Worldwide compatibility for microwave wireless access.
You both got part of it. Might have to flip a coin. It's worldwide interoperability and microwave access. I don't know if I'm right. Go to the first slide.
It wasn't the first slide. Worldwide interoperability for microwave access.
Give one of them the unit, the other one the power supply.
Okay.
Flip a coin.
Name one of the simplest pre-WiMAX products.
Kansas Street.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, you were going to say that?
Yeah.
All right, here you go. Congratulations. All right. I guess that's it. Thanks very much. Pay your bills and
Come back next month.
come back next month, and the video will be online. And
Oh yeah, if you want the slides, I'll be happy to send them to you. Just give me your email address.
okay. And
If you have any questions, you can always call me and ask me too. I do that. No charge.
And your website is www.ask.
It's right there. It's ask-wi.com.
Ask why is it wireless?
And that stands for my old company name, which was Wireless Infonet. It was Ask Wireless Infonet.
Ask-y.com.
Yeah,
It's a clever name.
it works. Although I liked Wireless Infonet. But
That got sued out of existence.
yeah, that got sued out of existence by a billion-dollar company that had one of those two words, either wireless or Infonet, in its name.
Being non-specific.
Cool. Thanks.
Life
Any
is
other
still
questions or
good.
announcements?
I was wondering if anybody knew what happened to the LA area wireless research network.
Oh, it kind of got paused, but it's still working. Frank was driving that, Frank Keeney. And I know the access point is up on Mount Wilson. He's connecting to it, and he uses it sometimes.
Because I'm actually building out. I've got a couple of friends of mine that are building a small wireless network, and I was wondering if we could contribute to that somehow.
Yeah, I think you could. Email Frank, Frank at wlandparks.com, and or put a note up on the list, the SoCalWUG discussion list, and yeah, let's bring that topic up again, especially with all this talk about. I mean, now WiMAX. Maybe we can integrate some kind of.
Yeah, because somebody's going to give us an
Why don't we build our own
I
wireless
was actually
access point?
we talked with Redline when they presented here, and they were open to doing a test bed network. You know, I mean, they just have the equipment lying around as stacks, right?
Yeah, but do
love
they
the
even have
publicity.
equipment in any frequency that's legal? I mean, that's.
I don't know, but
I don't know.
they were open.
If they can use separate, if their radios are separate from their.
If they're open to it, and we still have the geographic spots. We have the one in Chatsworth, the one up on Mount Wilson, and there's we've been talking Santa Cruz Island, like a few different spots that can, test the distance and coverage around the areas.
And we could probably build a network that covered certainly the whole valley real quick.
Yes.
And then across LA,
Right.
could make it a WiMAX backbone network for that matter.
Right.
Test bed,
A test bed network.
get all kinds of publicity. The whole world would be looking, what are these guys doing?
WiMAX.
How can they do WiMAX? It's not even certified in the U.S. yet. No, it's not certified, but it's still WiMAX. Well, it's near WiMAX.
802.16.
It's pre-WiMAX.
Just don't tell me XLC.
No, well, I mean,
We'll use-
if there's equipment that
We can tell them.
there's license-free equipment is the issue. I mean,
Well, like Tim says, we need to get the chipset. But once the prices are... it's probably
Redline
not cheap.
manufactures their own chips. They can't sell them because of there was like an acquisition or they spun off, or something like that. But I think it was the CEO who started Redline, sold a chip company, and he's like legally prohibited from selling chips because of the deal from the sale. So but he could make his own chips. So he started Redline. They're making their own chips,
Why don't
and
we
that's
just,
why they're their
let's
own.
just ask them for equipment, like you said.
I think we will. Now that it's yeah.
The interest
We'll
level
bring it
is
up
up.
again. We talked to them about it when they presented last year.
Something interesting a lot of people aren't familiar with on the 5.8 band with WiMAX, or the license-free band in the U.S. in general, and the equipment manufacturers, they're actually really soured on the market. They have this equipment, and it costs them money to make, but the sales just aren't as strong as they would hope them to be to want to be able to make this equipment in general. That's why they've come out with the 3.5 band first, because the sales out there are billions of dollars. A company comes and buys, $2 million worth of product at once, and you go to the U.S. and talk to a WISP, and they say, oh yeah, we could use a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
So the market is in the U.S. license free for these big manufacturers isn't there, in their opinion,
Right.
to want to spend the time to come out with the 5.8 WiMAX, at least at this point. They got to make sure they stay in business, because you look at Proxim and some of the other companies, they didn't do so good.
Well, Proxim went bankrupt.
Yeah,
Several
Acquired by
times.
Terrabeam.
yeah.
Several times.
Yeah, because someone else, before Terrabeam, there was another turnover there.
Oh, YDI. YDI bought Terrabeam.
But there was
and then
another,
changed their name, and then they bought Proxim and changed their name again.
yeah, the equipment business is not real steady.
The Valverde-
And YDI started almost as like a wireless ISP, right? Just
Yeah.
about.
Well,
Making their own.
Yeah,
They sold low-cost Wi-Fi hardware.
and that stuff's doing okay. But these equipment manufacturers who making these radios that cost them $300, everyone's asking for the $200 radio. At the time when radios were $2,000, everyone was asking for $1,000. Now they came down to $1,000. Everyone wants $500. They hit $500, and they want $300. And so they're frustrated. They're frustrated with the U.S. market. When you look at Trango, for example, now they have their, I think in a 20-pack, they sell their new Atlas Fox for, what is it, about $250?
Or even less. It's
Less?
like 195
So
or maybe
we'll
less.
see if that works for them.
Less than $200.
Yeah.
Trango.
Well, it's a Trango Fox Atlas, which it's a small unit. It's about that big with a built-in antenna. You can use it on the end of a passive reflector for longer range, and it's going to work with. It works with the current 5830 DSS rate AP, and in the future it's going to work with their Atlas AP, which will provide 25 megabits of throughput. That will probably be their almost WiMAX solution for Trango. So. But we'll see if it works for them. At those price points, they're probably only making a few dollars, $20 a unit.
You reminded me, one of the common, probably the biggest common ground between pre-WiMAX and WiMAX, and I didn't mention the term all night. I think we should throw it out. Yeah. OFDM, orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. It's not direct sequence spread spectrum. It's not frequency hopping spread spectrum. OFDM, it's multiple signals going together as one signal with a lot of redundancy for data and a lot of immunity when it hits or comes near an object. Immunity to multipath. We didn't talk about OFDM and multipath immunity, but put those terms in your vocabularies because it's very, very important.
Cellular companies use OFDM, right?
No, using CDMA, Code Division Multi-Access. Now, Flash OFDM by that company Clarion was being developed. They were testing it with Nextel, and what it was almost like a frequency hopping OFDM, very small channel size, like 1.5 megahertz, giving 3 megabits with low latency, which most of the cellular currently is all TDMA based, so it has weird latency.
That's another term to memorize. Flash OFDM, a little different variety of OFDM. Flareon developed it, and they were just bought by Qualcomm. Qualcomm, the big power behind cellular phones. So that tells me Flash OFDM it must work pretty well.
It was a little clumsy, I guess, the system that
Maybe initially.
that's mostly a software issue.
Well, OFDM, Flash OFDM, these will be the answers to the quiz next month.
I have another one too. I have a few of these. I should have brought two. Sorry.
Thanks for bringing that one, Mike.
What?
Thanks for bringing that one.
Yeah, why not? Cool. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for everything.
What's the topic next month?
I don't know yet.